Lonely Lumberjack took in a pregnant girl sold by her brother. What he found was more than a family. A lonely road in the Montana wilderness, 1883. The camera opens on a vast sweep of pine-covered mountains, half buried under the weight of late winter snow. The wind howls through the trees like a ghost with nowhere to rest. A single figure moves along the frozen road, a broad-shouldered man driving a team of horses hitched to a heavy sled of timber. His name is Elias Boone. The locals call him the Quiet Lumberjack. He's a man carved from the same wood he cuts, strong, weathered, and wordless. It's been nearly 3 years since he buried his wife on that hill overlooking the Mill Creek. Since then he's lived alone, felling trees, trading lumber, and speaking mostly to the wind. As dusk settles, snow begins to fall. He urges the horses forward, until something catches his ear. A sound that doesn't belong to the forest. A cry. Not animal. Human. He halts the team, brow furrowed beneath his wide-brimmed hat. The cry comes again, faint and broken, a woman's voice. He takes his rifle, lantern, and trudges into the dark. A wagon stuck in the mud. Half hidden by snowdrifts sits an old wagon, its wheels snapped, one horse dead and frozen in its traces. The lantern light falls on a shivering figure huddled inside. "Hello?" Elias calls out. A soft gasp answers. The figure shrinks back. He steps closer, lowering the light, revealing a young woman, her face streaked with grime and tears, clutching her swollen belly beneath a threadbare shawl. She looks at him with fear, eyes wild, cornered. "Don't come closer," she stammers. "My brother said someone would come. Said I was to go with him." Elias's jaw tightens. "Go with who?" "You," she whispers, voice breaking. "You're the one who bought me." The words hit him like a hammer. "Bought?" He shakes his head slowly. "Miss, I don't buy people. I cut trees." She studies him, uncertain if he's lying. Her lips tremble. He said he couldn't keep me no more. That I'd eat too much. That a man up north needed company." She turns her head toward the dark woods, her eyes hollow. "Said I was lucky." Elias feels something burn behind his ribs, anger, pity, grief all tangled. "What's your name?" he asks gently. "Clara," she says after a pause. "Clara Mayfield." Her fingers clutch her stomach. She's shivering so hard her teeth chatter. He glances around, snow deepening, sky blackening. The wagon's broken axle means no chance of moving it. "You'll freeze out here," he says. "Come on. My cabin's an hour north." She flinches as he reaches a hand toward her. "I ain't going with another man. I'd rather die out here." Elias lowers his hand. His voice softens, the roughness gone. "I lost someone once too. Don't mean you have to." For a long, fragile moment, only the wind moves. Then Clara looks up, sees something in his eyes that isn't lust or ownership, but sorrow. She nods once. "All right, but if you try anything, you'll put me in my grave," he says quietly, offering his coat. The storm grows fierce as Elias helps her onto his sled. He wraps her in his coat and blanket, steering the horses through thick snow. Clara clings to the edge of the wagon, silent except for small gasps when the child kicks. Elias keeps glancing at her, the pale face, cracked lips, eyes that look both too young and too tired for this world. "You from town?" he finally asks. "Near Bozeman," she murmurs. "My folks died last spring. Brother took the farm, and me." The wind howls harder, swallowing the rest of her words. By the time they reach the cabin, a humble log house half buried under drifts, the moon has vanished behind the clouds. Elias helps her down, carrying her as gently as if she were made of glass. Warmth greets them, a crackling fire, the smell of pine pitch and coffee. Clara sits by the hearth, trembling. Her face softens in the glow, revealing bruises fading yellow along her jaw. Elias removes his gloves, lights more candles, and sets a pot of broth to boil. "You can rest," he says. "I'll take the floor." She eyes him, suspicious. "You got no wife?" He shakes his head. "Not anymore." Her expression falters and she looks away. He hands her a bowl of hot soup. "Eat." She hesitates, then lifts it to her lips. Tears spill down her face as she tastes the warmth. "Why are you helping me?" she asks finally. Elias stirs the fire, eyes lost in the flames. "'Cause someone should have." Later that night, the wind screams outside, rattling the shutters. Clara lies on his bed, wrapped in an old quilt that once belonged to Elias's mother. She whispers to the unborn child, voice soft and broken, "Maybe this time we're safe." Elias sits by the fire, his rifle leaning against the wall, eyes on the flame. The sound of her soft breathing drifts across the room. He hasn't heard another person sleep in his cabin since the day he buried his wife. For the first time in years, the place doesn't feel empty. Feels alive. He looks toward the bed, at the faint silhouette of the woman and her rounded belly, and something shifts quietly in his chest. A man who had nothing left to lose suddenly has something to protect. The fire flickers low. Outside, the snow continues to fall. And inside that small cabin beneath the pines, two strangers, one broken by grief, one by betrayal, drift into uneasy sleep, unaware that this night has already begun to bind their fates together. Because by morning, the lonely lumberjack's silence will no longer be enough, and the girl he rescued will become the heartbeat that echoes through his once empty home. Morning light creeps through the cracks between the cabin logs, a soft gold that cuts through the fading smoke of the hearth. Snow still falls outside, heavy and quiet, wrapping the forest in white. Elias stirs first. He rises from the floor where he slept beside the dying fire, his shoulders stiff beneath his wool shirt. For a moment, he just stands there, watching Clara sleep in his bed, one hand curved protectively over her belly. There's something fragile about her face in daylight. The bruises look fainter now, but her lips are dry, her eyes still swollen from tears. He brews coffee and chops more wood before she stirs. The steady rhythm of the axe outside mixes with the cry of ravens somewhere above the trees. When she finally wakes, she smells breakfast, cornbread and beans warming on the stove. She struggles to sit, wincing as the baby kicks. Elias steps inside, snow dusting his beard. He pauses by the door, wiping his boots. "You should stay in bed," he says. "I can stand," she insists softly. Her voice is firmer today. She looks around the cabin. Plain, tidy, every tool hung with care. There's no trace of a woman's hand here anymore. Just the echo of one. "You built all this yourself?" she asks. He nods. "After my wife passed." She doesn't press further. The silence between them is thick but not cold, like the stillness before spring. The storm returns. By noon, the wind begins to rise again. Snow whirls outside like feathers torn from the sky. Clara stands at the small window, watching it gather against the door. "It's going to trap us in, isn't it?" she murmurs. Elias glances up from his tools. For a while, yes. He checks the firewood pile, then the roof beams, moving with calm purpose. Clara follows his motions, her eyes tracing the way his muscles move under his shirt, the quiet certainty in every action. "You don't say much," she says. "Nothing worth saying most days," he replies. A flicker of a smile touches her lips. "You sound like my father." He gives her a faint look of curiosity but doesn't respond. Instead, he starts carving a piece of pine, long, slow cuts that fill the cabin with a warm, resinous scent. "What are you making?" she asks. He hesitates. "A spoon." "For me?" He shrugs. "For whoever needs one." But later that night, when she reaches for the stew, she finds a new spoon by her bowl. Smooth, curved perfectly, with a small engraving of a pine cone at the handle's base. She runs her fingers over it, eyes softening. "You made this today." He doesn't look up from the fire. "Had time." For the first time, she smiles without forcing it. Nightfall and memories. As the storm howls outside, the two share dinner in quiet. The firelight paints their faces in soft amber glow. After a long silence, Clara speaks. "My brother said I'd bring bad luck. That no man wanted a girl who couldn't keep her mouth shut or her belly flat." Elias's spoon stills in midair. "You don't owe that man a single word," he says, voice low. Clara swallows hard. "He was all I had left. When he sold me, I didn't even fight. I just let it happen. Guess I didn't think my life was worth much anymore." Elias sets his bowl aside. The fire pops and cracks. "You got breath in your lungs and a heartbeat in your chest," he says quietly. "That's worth plenty." Tears fill her eyes, but she blinks them away, hiding her face behind her hair. Outside, thunder rolls across the peaks and the wind hammers the door. Elias rises, checks the shutters and tosses another log on the fire. When he turns back, she's shaking, hands gripping the blanket, teeth clenched. "It's just the wind," he murmurs. "No," she whispers. "Sometimes I dream he's out there. Coming back for me." Elias moves closer, kneels beside the bed. He doesn't touch her, just stays there, his voice steady as stone. "He won't find you here. No one will." The storm pounds harder. For a long time, they listen together to the chaos outside, their breathing the only steady rhythm in the room. The carved pine. The days stretch into a rhythm. Clara begins to move easier around the cabin. She sweeps the floor, folds his clothes, hums to herself while cooking. Elias doesn't stop her, but he notices the warmth returning to the place. like sunlight slowly melting frost. One morning she finds a small carving left by her plate, a pine tree delicate and detailed, no bigger than her palm. "What's this?" she asks, holding it up. He shrugs again. "For luck." "Do you believe in that?" "Didn't used to." She looks at him a moment longer, realizing that for all his roughness, there's a gentleness he hides carefully, like a man afraid of breaking what he protects. The lullaby. That night the wind rises once more. Clara lies awake, one hand on her belly, whispering to her unborn child. "You'll grow strong, little one," she says softly. "Stronger than I ever was." From the firelight, Elias hears her singing, a lullaby so quiet it almost vanishes into the crackle of flames. It's the first time he's heard her voice unbroken by fear. He looks over, eyes heavy but warm. Something in the melody reaches inside him, pulling at a place that's been silent for years. He whispers to himself, almost in disbelief, "Forgot what peace sounded like." The candlelight. The night deepens. The wind dies down. Elias sits by the fire, half asleep, his axe leaning against the wall. Clara watches him in silence. The man who saved her, who hasn't asked for anything, who moves like he's still learning to live again. Her hand rests on her belly, the baby shifting gently. She whispers into the darkness. "Maybe we're safe after all." The fire pops. He stirs but doesn't wake. For the first time since being sold, Clara smiles. Small, uncertain but real. And as snow falls quietly over the pines outside, the cabin becomes something new. No longer a shelter from the storm, but the beginning of a home. The snow begins to melt, drip by drip, from the roof of Elias's cabin. Tiny streams trickle between the pines, carrying the last of winter away. Inside, warmth hums quietly, the crackle of fire, the scrape of a wooden chair, the soft sound of Clara's humming as she shells beans by the window. Her belly has grown rounder now. The child inside moves often, restless, alive. Elias is at the table sharpening his axe, each pull of the whetstone smooth and slow. He doesn't speak much, he never does, but he listens. Always listens. Clara glances at him now and then. The silence that once frightened her has become something steady. Say, the journal. While Elias is out cutting wood, Clara moves about the cabin cleaning. She finds an old chest tucked beneath the bed, dusty, forgotten. Curiosity wins. She lifts the lid. Inside, old letters, a woman's shawl folded neatly, and a small leather-bound journal. She opens it carefully. The handwriting is strong, deliberate. January 7th. The baby didn't come. Martha's gone. I buried her by the creek. Clara's heart tightens. She flips through the pages, sketches of trees, small poems, bits of thought. On one page, a drawing of a woman's hand resting on a belly that's only half finished. The sound of the door startles her. Elias steps in, wiping snow from his boots. His eyes fall on the journal in her hands. "I'm sorry," she blurts, setting it down quickly. "I shouldn't have." He lifts a hand. "It's all right." She hesitates, unsure. "Martha was your wife." He nods slowly, eyes dark as the winter soil outside. She was. She passed giving birth? He swallows hard before answering. "A son." He didn't make it either. The silence stretches thick. Clara's eyes glisten with understanding. "I'm sorry, Elias." He shrugs, but his voice trembles. "It's been 3 winters. Thought I'd buried the sound of crying. Guess not." Her breath catches. She realizes what her presence must stir in him. The sight of her belly, her pain, her hope. "You must hate it," she says quietly. He looks at her sharply. "Hate what?" Being reminded. He shakes his head, steps closer, voice low. "You remind me there's still life. That's different." For a moment, neither moves. The air between them hums with something neither dares to name. The river walk. Days later, the weather softens. Elias takes Clara outside for the first time since winter's grip began to fade. They walk along the creek that runs behind the cabin, its waters rushing fast from the melt. Clara breathes deep, closing her eyes. "I'd forgotten what fresh air smelled like." He smiles faintly. "Smells like hard work to me." She laughs, the sound bright against the quiet forest. He stops walking just to listen. Then softer, "You should laugh more," he says. She glances up. "So should you." He looks away quickly, as if embarrassed to be seen smiling. They sit by the water, sunlight warming their faces. She dips her hands into the icy stream and gasps. "Cold?" Elias chuckles. An honest, rough sound that surprises them both. She watches him a moment, heart aching in a strange, sweet way. Nightfall and truth shared. That evening the cabin glows with the soft light of lanterns. Rain taps gently on the roof. Clara sits sewing a small blanket for the baby while Elias works near the fire, repairing an axe handle. "Do you ever think about leaving this place?" she asks suddenly. He doesn't look up. "Had nowhere to go before. Still don't." "What about now?" He sets the axe aside, finally meeting her eyes. "Now there's something keeping me here." Her breath catches. She looks down at her stitching, pretending not to understand. After a long pause, she whispers, "You've been alone a long time, haven't you?" "Too long maybe," he admits. She nods, tears blurring her vision. "Me too." For a moment, their loneliness becomes something shared. Two hearts, scarred and weary, finding rhythm in the same silence. The lullaby returns. Later that night, Clara can't sleep. She sits near the fire, rubbing her belly as the baby kicks again. Elias wakes to the sound of her humming. He listens from his bed, the soft notes curling through the air like warmth. When she notices him watching, she stops. "Sorry? I didn't mean to wake you." "You didn't." He sits up, voice softer than she's ever heard it. "That song, where's it from?" "My mother used to sing it when storms scared me," she says. "Said no night lasts forever." Elias's gaze holds hers across the dim light. She was right. Clara smiles faintly. "You believe that?" "I do now." The first touch. The fire burns low. Clara stands to stir it, but the motion makes her wince, sharp pain cutting through her side. Elias rises immediately, steadying her by the shoulders. "You all right?" he asks, concern flickering in his voice. She nods, but her breathing is shallow. "Just a pull." She's restless tonight. He kneels before her, one hand hovering near her stomach but not touching. "May I?" She hesitates, then nods. He places his rough palm gently against her belly. The baby kicks once strong. Elias exhales sharply, eyes wide. "That's life," he murmurs, half in awe. Tears slip down Clara's cheeks. "Yes," she whispers. "It is." They stay like that for a moment, two souls broken by loss, bound now by something small, unseen, and utterly alive. When she finally turns to rest, he watches her with quiet reverence, the kind a man saves for miracles he never thought he'd see again. Outside, the rain fades. Inside, the silence between them is no longer empty. It's full of memory, of hope, of something neither will dare call love, not yet. The first blossoms of spring cling to the edge of the forest, soft pinks peeking from beneath the melting snow. The world smells of wet pine, river water, and new beginnings. Inside the cabin, life has taken on a rhythm. Clara hums as she folds tiny linens near the hearth. Elias repairs the roof, his silhouette framed by the sun. When he comes down the ladder, sweat glistening on his brow, she teases, "You'll fall one day climbing like that." He grins faintly. "If I fall, it'll be into hay, not heaven." She laughs, hand resting on her swollen belly. The sound makes something ache in him, a kind ache, the sort that feels like home. But as afternoon fades, clouds begin to gather, thick, gray, heavy. The air grows tense and the wind hums low through the trees. Elias notices first. "We're in for it," he mutters, glancing toward the horizon. By nightfall, the first rumble of thunder shakes the cabin walls. The storm breaks. Rain lashes the windows. The wind howls like a living thing, thrashing branches against the roof. The lamp flickers as thunder rolls across the mountain. Clara paces, restless, one hand on her back. "She's moving a lot tonight," she says with a wince. Elias looks up from the fire. "You should rest." "I can't." Her voice trembles. Something feels different. He rises, studying her. The way she grips the table, the strain on her face, it's a look he knows too well. His breath catches. "Clara, how long have you been feeling this?" "Since the rain started." She forces a laugh, but fear glints in her eyes. "Guess the baby doesn't like storms either." A crack of thunder shakes the ground. She gasps, clutching her belly as pain rips through her. Elias's world stops. It's happening. The battle of life. Hours pass. The storm outside becomes a mirror of the one inside the cabin. Elias has cleared the table, laid down clean linens and boiled water. He moves with grim focus, remembering every detail of that long-ago night, the screams, the blood, the silence that followed. His hands tremble. His chest tightens. Not again, he thinks. Please, not again. Clara's cries grow louder, sharper, her voice breaking through thunder. "Elias, it hurts, oh God." "I'm here," he says, gripping her hand tight. His knuckles turn white, his voice low and steady despite the fear in his heart. "You're not alone, Clara. You hear me? She nods through the pane, sweat shining on her forehead. Lightning flashes, turning the cabin to silver. Rain pours down the chimney, sizzling in the fire. Time blurs. Pain becomes rhythm, rhythm becomes battle. At one point Clara sobs, "I can't do this." Elias bends close, his voice breaking for the first time. "Yes, you can. You already survived worse. You're the strongest person I know." She grips his shirt, tears streaming. "Don't let me die, Elias. Please." The words slice through him like a blade. He leans close, forehead to hers. "You won't. Not while I still breathe." The child arrives. The night stretches long, endless. Then suddenly, a cry. Soft, sharp, fierce. The storm stills as if the world itself pauses to listen. Elias blinks through tears. In his hands lies a tiny wrinkled baby girl, red-faced and alive, her cries cutting through the last roll of thunder. Clara collapses back, exhausted but smiling weakly. "Is she?" "She's perfect," he whispers, voice breaking. He wraps the child in a clean blanket and places her gently into Clara's arms. For the first time in years, Elias Boone, the man who had buried hope beneath grief, feels something burn bright again inside him. He kneels beside them, watching as the baby grips Clara's finger with impossible strength. "What will you call her?" he asks softly. Clara looks down at the child, tears glimmering on her lashes. "Grace." Elias exhales, nodding slowly. "Fitting name." The aftermath. Dawn creeps over the horizon. The storm is gone. Sunlight filters through broken clouds, touching the cabin with golden warmth. Clara sleeps now, the baby nestled against her chest. Elias sits nearby, staring at the small bundle, so fragile, so loud in her breathing, yet full of life. He whispers to the sleeping infant, "You don't even know what you've done, little one. You brought her back to life, and me too." The baby shifts, sighs, and keeps sleeping. Elias looks toward the window where the storm once raged. He remembers that night 3 years ago, Martha's screams, the silence that followed, and feels the ghost of that pain finally loosen its hold. This time the story ended differently. The quiet promise. When Clara wakes, her voice is hoarse. "You stayed all night." He smiles faintly. "Didn't have anywhere better to be." She reaches for his hand. "You saved us." He shakes his head. "You did the hard part." Her eyes meet his. "Elias, I don't know how to thank you." "You already did," he says softly, glancing toward the cradle he built weeks ago where Grace now sleeps. "You gave this place a heartbeat again." She watches him, this rugged man with calloused hands, sitting in the sunlight with tears drying on his cheeks, and something deep within her heart shifts. Not fear. Not gratitude. Something far more dangerous and tender. A new dawn. Outside, the forest gleams with dew. Birds call across the valley. The storm's destruction lies scattered, fallen branches, puddles of mud, but the air feels clean, reborn. Elias steps onto the porch, breathing it in. Behind him, Clara hums softly to the baby. He closes his eyes and lets the sound wash through him. For years, the wind was the only thing that spoke to him in this wilderness. Now it's laughter. Now it's life. Now it's family. Elias turns back toward the cabin, a faint smile on his lips. The man who once swore never to love again steps quietly inside, into the warmth, into the light, into the life he never expected to find. Weeks have passed since the storm. The cabin feels alive now, filled with warmth, laughter, and the sweet sound of a baby's cries. Clara moves slower these days, her body still healing, but there's a glow to her, the soft, quiet joy of a woman who has finally found safety. Elias chops wood outside, glancing through the open window every few moments, smiling faintly at the sight of Clara singing softly to Grace. When he comes inside, Clara teases, "If you keep staring like that, you'll chop your thumb clean off." He chuckles. "Just making sure my girls are safe." It's the first time he's ever said "my girls." Clara notices, her breath catching, but she doesn't correct him. Because in her heart it feels true. But far beyond the treeline, danger is already moving closer. The stranger on the trail. The mountains are quiet that morning, too quiet. Elias is out checking his traps when he spots the trail. 2 horses, fresh tracks, heading straight for the cabin. He kneels, pressing his hand to the damp earth. One set of prints is heavy, the other lighter. His jaw tightens. "Not travelers," he mutters. "Too direct." By the time he returns home, the sky has turned gray again, and an unease curls low in his gut. Clara looks up as he bursts through the door. "What is it?" "Riders," he says. "Coming fast." Her face drains of color. "Oh God, it's them." "Who?" My brother, she whispers. And the man he sold me to. Truth revealed. The words hang in the air like a blade. Elias stares at her, stunned. Sold you? She nods, trembling. After my father died, my brother gambled away what little we had left. I became his debt. They were going to take me west, not as a wife but as property. Elias's jaw hardens, his eyes darkening with a fury she's never seen. He steps close, voice low and steady. No one's taking you. Not now. Not ever. Clara shakes her head desperately. You don't understand. My brother, Silas, he's cruel, Elias. He'll hurt you if you get in his way. Elias looks toward the rifle resting on the mantel. Let him try. The confrontation. Afternoon bleeds into dusk. Rain threatens again, but the world holds its breath. Then hoofbeats. Slow, deliberate, echoing through the valley. Clara clutches the baby, her heart pounding. Elias moves to the porch, rifle in hand, eyes narrowed. Two figures emerge from the woods. Silas, tall, sharp-faced, with the same dark eyes as Clara but none of her warmth. Beside him, a scarred man with cold gray eyes and a sneer, the one who bought her. Silas dismounts first, smirking. Well, little sister. You've been hard to find. Elias steps forward, the rifle raised. That's far enough. The scarred man laughs. You her keeper, mountain man? Her husband? Elias lies, his voice like iron. Clara's breath catches behind him, but she doesn't deny it. Silas's grin fades. Then you've got something that belongs to me. Elias's finger tightens on the trigger. She doesn't belong to anyone. The storm within. The tension cracks like lightning. The scarred man steps forward, hand on his revolver. Clara gasps, clutching Grace tighter. Elias doesn't flinch. Turn around, he says. Ride out of here and forget her name. The man sneers. You think you can threaten me, Boone? Elias's eyes narrow. You know who I am? Everybody in these parts does. The widower who lost his wife birthing a child. The one who buried them both in a storm. He laughs cruelly. You couldn't save them then. You think you can save her now? That's when Elias fires. The shot echoes through the mountains, tearing a chunk of bark from the tree beside the man's head. Next one doesn't miss, Elias says quietly. Silas flinches, stepping back. You'll regret this, Boone. I'll be back for her. Elias lowers the rifle, eyes cold. You won't make it halfway down the mountain if you try. The two men hesitate, then turn and ride off, vanishing into the dark woods. Aftermath of fear. When silence finally returns, Clara breaks down. She sinks to the floor, sobbing, the baby wailing in her arms. Elias kneels beside her, his voice soft. It's over. She shakes her head. No, it's not. He'll come back. He hesitates, then takes her face gently in his hands. Then I'll be waiting. Her eyes search his. Why would you risk your life for me? He swallows hard. Because you and that child are the first good thing that's come to this place in years. I'd die before I lose that again. Tears stream down her cheeks. She leans forward, resting her forehead against his. For the first time there's no fear, only trust. The promise? That night the fire burns low. The baby sleeps soundly, her tiny breaths the only sound in the room. Elias sits by the door, rifle across his lap, eyes watching the window. Clara stirs from her bed. You're not sleeping? He shakes his head. Not tonight. She watches him for a long moment, then whispers, I believe you. He glances at her, confused. When you said we're your girls. She smiles softly. I believe you meant it. Elias looks away, emotion tightening his throat. After a long silence he whispers, I did. The wind howls outside, but inside there's peace, fragile, flickering but real. And though Elias doesn't know what tomorrow will bring, one thing is certain. He will protect them, even if it means facing death itself. The mountains sleep under a blanket of fog. Inside the cabin the air feels tight, too still, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. Clara wakes suddenly, heart pounding. Grace stirs beside her, fussing softly. She glances toward the door. Elias's rifle still rests by the window, but his chair is empty. She finds him outside, standing at the edge of the clearing, staring into the dark woods. You haven't slept, she whispers, pulling her shawl tighter. He doesn't look at her. They're out there. How do you know? I can feel it, he says simply. Then, as if to prove him right, a distant echo splits the night. A horse's whinny. A muffled shout. They've come back. The return of Silas. By dawn, the fog has thinned, revealing movement along the ridge. 3 riders this time. Silas at the front. Elias stands on the porch, rifle in hand. Clara hides inside with Grace, every muscle trembling. Silas dismounts, eyes burning with hatred. "You made a fool of me, Boone." "You did that yourself," Elias replies evenly. The scarred man, his cheek still red from where Elias's bullet grazed him, spits in the dirt. "This time I'll take what's mine." Elias levels the rifle. "You'll have to come through me." Silas smirks. "That's the plan." Without warning, the man beside him draws his gun. Elias fires first. The man falls backward, dead before he hits the ground. Silas roars in rage. "You'll pay for that." He charges forward, weapon raised. Elias ducks behind a tree, bullets whistling past. The forest explodes with gunfire, bark splintering, birds scattering into the gray sky. The fire and the chase. Inside, Clara rocks Grace, tears streaming down her cheeks. Through the window she sees the muzzle flashes, the chaos, the fury. Then a lantern crashes. Silas, desperate, hurls it toward the cabin. Flames lick up the porch boards instantly. "No!" Clara screams, clutching the baby as smoke fills the air. Elias hears her cry and breaks from cover. He charges through the open doorway, grabs a blanket and beats at the flames. "Get out, Clara," he yells. "I can't, Grace." He snatches both mother and child into his arms, breaking through the back door as the roof begins to collapse. They stumble into the clearing, coughing, smoke curling into the dawn sky. The cabin, their home, is burning. The last stand. Silas follows, gun drawn, eyes wild. "You took everything from me," he screams. Elias turns, setting Clara and Grace behind him. "You did that yourself. You think she's yours now? She'll never love a killer." Elias's jaw tightens. "Then I've got nothing left to lose." They circle each other, smoke swirling between them. Two brothers of fate, one bound by blood, one by love. Silas fires first. The shot grazes Elias's shoulder, spinning him around. He grits his teeth, raises his rifle, and shoots Silas in the leg. Silas collapses, clutching the wound, cursing. "Finish it," he spits. "You think you're better than me? Do it." Elias walks forward slowly, smoke and ash drifting like ghosts around them. He raises the rifle, then lowers it. "No," he says. "That's what you do." He turns away, voice steady. "Go. And if you ever come back up this mountain, I'll forget mercy." Silas glares at him, hatred and shame twisting his face. Then he crawls to his horse, dragging himself into the saddle, and disappears into the smoke. Ashes and tears. By the time the flames die, only the stone chimney remains standing. The cabin is gone, their shelter, their safety, their peace. Clara kneels in the ashes, holding Grace close, tears streaking her soot-covered cheeks. "I'm sorry," she whispers. "Everything you built." Elias kneels beside her, his arm bleeding, eyes fixed on the rising smoke. He shakes his head. "Wood and nails can be rebuilt." He looks at her then, really looks, and his voice softens. "But I thought I'd lost you." Clara's lip trembles. "You never will." She reaches up, touches his face, rough with soot, streaked with blood. And for the first time she kisses him. It's not desperate or rushed, it's real. A kiss of survival, of love found in ruin. The rebirth. By evening the rain begins again, soft, steady, cleansing. Elias builds a small shelter from the remains of the barn. Clara tends to his wound, her hands gentle but sure. Grace sleeps between them, her tiny breaths steady against the sound of rain. Clara looks out at the ruins of the cabin, then at Elias. "What will we do now?" He glances toward the horizon. "We'll rebuild. Maybe not the same, but better." She smiles faintly. "You really think we can?" He reaches over, taking her hand. "We already did once. The dawn after the fire. Morning breaks golden and pure. Smoke rises in thin tendrils over the blackened ground. Elias stands with Grace in his arms, watching the sun rise over the mountains. Clara joins him, slipping her hand into his. He looks down at her, eyes soft. "Guess this mountain gave me a family after all." Clara rests her head on his shoulder. "No," she says quietly. "You built one." The camera pulls back, the mountains stretching endlessly behind them, the burned cabin at their feet, and the promise of new life glimmering in the light. The mountain in spring, wildflowers carpeting the slopes, birdsong echoing through the pines. Where once smoke and ruin stood, a new cabin rises, strong, warm, alive. Elias stands outside, chopping wood. His beard is trimmed now, his movements slower, steadier. A man at peace. From the open window, Clara's laughter floats out, light and free. Inside, Grace toddles across the wooden floor, giggling as Clara bakes bread. The scent of pine and fresh dough fills the air. Elias glances through the window, smiling faintly. The image before him, mother, child, home, is something he once believed he'd never see again. Ghosts in the river. That evening, Elias walks down to the creek where he buried his first wife and son. He kneels beside their resting place, wildflowers growing thick around the simple wooden crosses. "I kept my promise," he murmurs. "Didn't think I'd ever build again, but she made me." He lays a hand on the ground, voice quiet, trembling. "I still miss you, Martha. But I think you'd want this. You'd want me to live." A breeze stirs the trees, gentle, almost answering. He closes his eyes, a tear slipping down his weathered cheek. Then he stands, lighter somehow, and turns back toward the cabin's glow. Clara's secret. Back at the cabin, Clara sits by the fire, sewing a small white dress. Grace sleeps beside her, curls tangled over her cheeks. Elias enters, setting down his gloves. "You're still up?" She smiles softly. "Couldn't sleep." He sits beside her, eyeing the dress. "Grace outgrew the last one already?" Clara hesitates, a shy smile forming. "It's not for Grace." He frowns, confused, until she takes his hand and places it over her belly. A heartbeat passes before realization dawns. His eyes widen. "You mean?" She nods, tears glinting in her lashes. "Yes, Elias. We're going to have another." He exhales sharply, emotion cracking his voice. He pulls her close, forehead against hers. "Thank you," he whispers, "for giving me back what I thought was gone forever." The visitor. Days later, a lone rider approaches the cabin. Elias tenses, hand brushing the rifle, but the man isn't Silas. It's the local sheriff. "Boone," he calls, dismounting. "Got word down in Pine Hollow. Your wife's brother, Silas. He's dead. Caught in a blizzard trying to cross the ridge last winter." Elias stands silently for a moment. "Thank you, Sheriff." As the lawman rides off, Clara steps out onto the porch, holding Grace. She hears the news in Elias's voice before he speaks. Her eyes glisten, but not with joy, only quiet sorrow. "He was a cruel man, but he was still my brother." Elias nods. "Then we'll pray for him." They bow their heads together, the wind carrying their words across the mountains like forgiveness. Summer of hope. The next season passes in warmth and laughter. Elias builds a new barn. Clara tends a garden bursting with color. Grace toddles barefoot through the grass, chasing butterflies. One evening, they sit together on the porch as the sun sets behind the pines. Clara leans against Elias, her belly round again, her voice soft. "Do you ever think about how it all started?" He chuckles quietly. A knock on the door, a frightened girl, and a man too stubborn to admit he needed her. She smiles, teasing. "And now?" He turns, looking at her with a warmth that's almost shy. "Now I can't imagine this mountain without you." The christening. Weeks later, the valley gathers. A small handful of neighbors and woodcutters, standing before the little wooden cross that serves as the cabin's church. Clara and Elias stand side by side, Grace in her father's arms, while the pastor blesses them. "For where once there was sorrow," the pastor says, "now there is life." As the congregation sings softly, Elias catches Clara's gaze. She smiles through tears and he reaches for her hand. The camera pans to Grace's tiny fingers clutching his beard as sunlight pours through the pines. The symbol of new beginnings. The mountain home. Night falls gently over the land. Inside the cabin, the fire burns low. Grace sleeps between her parents, the world safe and still. Elias watches the flames dance, his voice a low murmur. "I used to think this mountain would be my grave. But it gave me a reason to live." Clara stirs, half asleep. "It gave us each other." He smiles, brushing a hand through her hair. "More than that. It gave me a family." Outside, the wind hums softly through the trees, no longer lonely, no longer empty. Just alive. Love can bloom even in the wildest places, if two hearts dare to build again.